Welcome to episode 144 of the Daniel Yoris podcast with today's guest, Dmitri Leonov. Let's go. Welcome back to the podcast, everybody. Joined here today by Dmitri Leonov. Dmitri, thank you so much for being here. It was a quick one that came together, but when you emailed me, when I saw your message and what your guys' company is doing, I was like, oh, this lines up perfectly with the podcast and kind of the intersection of a lot of things that I'm super interested in. So I'm really excited to speak with you today.
Thank you for having me.
Can you go ahead and introduce yourself, let people know who you are and what it is that you do?
Sure. My name is Dmitri Leonov. I am an entrepreneur, so I've worked in a few different areas, from software and internet to health tech and wellness tech, which is what the product that I'm focused on right now. It's a wearable device that helps your central nervous system communicate more effectively with the rest of your body, which leads to all sorts of benefits.
Super interesting. So it's called Taopatch. That's the correct pronunciation of it, I presume?
Yep.
And can you I don't want to take a shot at describing it because it's so interesting and so unique. Can you kind of describe what the product is and what the premise is? And then we're going to go into, because I have a ton of questions about how it works and how it all makes sense.
Perfect. So this is the product. It's called Taopatch. It looks like a little plastic coin. It really doesn't look like much, but that's very misleading because this little coin contains a nanomaterial, which has a very unique quality. It can, so we place it on specific points on your body. And what it's doing is it's combining light therapy with acupuncture or with Chinese medicine. So depending on where you place it, a lot of those points come from Chinese medicine. And so depending where you place it, it has a different effect on different systems of your body. But overall, in a nutshell, what it's doing is this nanomaterial essentially captures the heat of your body, so your infrared energy, and reflects it back into your body. But it doesn't just reflect it as heat, but it converts it to a broader spectrum. So it goes from, it takes infrared energy and kind of converts it into a broader spectrum from infrared to ultraviolet, and sends that light into your nervous system via those points where we place them. And essentially it reminds your nervous system how it's meant to naturally communicate with your body. And why is this important? The act of living our life with all of the external factors, some internal factors like genetics, in many cases, but also just the bombardment of stimuli and chemicals and electromagnetic radiation and so on. All of this destabilizes our system, and there's a kind of big polarity between, I'd say, Western medicine or allopathic medicine and the traditional Eastern or holistic is a better word, medicine. So allopathic medicine is really focused on addressing individual symptoms and addressing specific problems. And that's why, a lot of our Western doctors have a very narrow specialization, and why we kind of divide everything into body parts and treat individual symptoms, as a one-off. And this leads to, yes, you could solve a specific symptom, but a lot of times it kind of destabilizes your overall body even more, right? And a lot of our Western medicines have the word anti in them, right? So it's anti-inflammatory, antibacterial, antifungal, painkiller, right? And all of this is a very kind of specific thing that affects one aspect of your overall system, but doesn't really take into consideration everything else. And by contrast, pretty much all holistic medicine practices look at your whole body, not just your body, your mental, your emotional state holistically, hence the name. And most of them are really focused on bringing your body into balance, or even to say more correctly, they're focused on helping your body bring itself into balance, right? And so this is kind of the premise behind Taopatch. Really, we are a combination of super, cutting edge technology, so nanotechnology, with light therapy, which is also a relatively modern form of therapy, and combining it with Chinese medicine and the kind of the knowledge of meridians and points on your body. And the first system, the first kind of thing that it affects, the first system in your body that it affects is your proprioception. Meaning, so proprioception is the relationship between your brain and the body. So the fact that we can close our eyes and know where our hand, is in space, this is our proprioception. So I don't have to look at it to know where my hand is. And it has a really, really profound effect. So in our lab, we have equipment that measures your balance, for instance. And we know in every single case, every person who puts on the patches, we, within minutes, notice a significant improvement in your balance. So how you balance, how the micro movements, kind of as you stand still, right? There's a lot of micro movements to keep yourself balanced. And with the patches on, those movements almost disappear because you just become much more centered. And this is both physically centered, and also there's an kind of an emotional and mental centeredness that comes with it. The most profound effect of this, it can be seen with people whose that communication between your central nervous system or your brain and the rest of the body, where that communication is disrupted in some way. So, for example, multiple sclerosis, Parkinson's, other neurological disorders. Until very recent, or until a few months ago, vast majority of our customers had one of those disorders, and this is because the improvement is immediate and really profound. So if you go on our website, taopatch.co, you can see the before and after videos of some of those multiple sclerosis or Parkinson's patients. And you can see how, people start walking who couldn't really walk before. And this is within minutes. And then the second group that it really makes a big difference for is athletes. For them, an extra second, a little bit of improvement makes a huge difference as well. I've been talking. I'll stop now.
No. There's so many things there, and we're going to kind of go through all of that. But it's a great overview for the rest of this conversation as well. I was so interested to see those kind of like before and after testimonials of the people with MS and with Parkinson's, because it was so dramatic and so quick and seemingly like, how did we not figure this out sooner? It's so simplistic, right? You put the patch on and there you go. I want to backtrack a little bit and just, if you can define what nanotechnology means for me and for the listeners, just because it seems to me to be a bit of a buzzword, but like I have no idea what that means. And so it sounds really cool, but what does that actually mean and how does it work? I'm sure there's like a giant, that's several hours of discussion, but if you can summarize it for us less educated.
No, absolutely. So this specific nanomaterial. So this is not a smart device, meaning there's no electronics or it doesn't communicate with anything. It's literally just a material called quantum dots. And so, interestingly, just a couple of months ago, there was a Nobel Prize that was awarded to 3 physicists who discovered quantum dots. So this was a really big day for us. So this nanomaterial is very unique and it's expensive to make, which is why the product itself is not cheap. But it's really quite remarkable that you do not need batteries, right? You literally uses your own body's energy, your own heat, and just simply reflects it back into your body, and again converts it, kind of like a prism, converts it to a broader spectrum. And this allows it to work for 2.5 years without any kind of degradation in the brightness, right, in the effectiveness of this. Whereas, without this technology, without this material, you would need batteries, you would need pretty heavy equipment. And so as you probably know, light therapy is not a new area. There's literally over 9,000 peer-reviewed studies on light therapy published on PubMed. But all of those devices are bulky and usually can be used at a doctor's office, or if you're lucky enough to have it at home, you would use it for an hour maybe, and then your body kind of goes back to being itself. And with this allows us to wear them 24/7 for 2.5 years and can consistently allow your body to integrate these signals.
Right. And more targeted. The red light therapy devices that I've seen, they're very large and they're like, full face or full body or just a giant area, rather than, your patches, you put it on a specific point that is intended to elicit a specific outcome rather than just a giant area. And there's pros and cons to both, of course.
Yeah. Well, there is actually a specific kind of light therapy called low-level laser therapy, which is exactly what it sounds like. So you take a laser and point it on the body. But again, it's a massive thing that you can't really carry with you. And it's one of the other benefits, by the way, that I didn't cover is pain management and injury recovery. And this is what low-level laser therapy is used for a lot. And the Taopatch works the same way. You place it wherever you have pain or injury. And I mean, the difference is huge.
Yeah, that low-level laser therapy is something that I had done. I had a pretty big knee surgery like around 9 years ago. And in the rehabbing of that, they were using, and I didn't know like a ton at that time, but they were using the laser for breaking up scar tissue or trying to make the scar tissue not bunch up as much in the recovery, is what I was told anyways. And like, whether it worked, I don't know, because I don't have like a control of myself having not done it. So it's hard to say like how effective it truly was. But I mean, there's obviously scar tissue in there, but maybe less than there would have. So I agree with you that this is not like new technology. It's not like crazy to understand that the light part of it is beneficial at least, but the delivery and the combination of using your body's own heat. And so is this where the quantum dots come in, is the conversion of your body's heat to light?
Exactly.
Because that sounds like impossible. If you would have said that to me, I'd be like, that's that doesn't make any sense. How does that work? How do you convert heat into light? But is this technology used anywhere else outside of health? Is it used in some other industries, in some sort of factories or laboratories or anything like that?
Not that we know. And to this, you bring up a really good point. I mean, if from like physics standpoint, it's what it's doing is it's taking a lower frequency signal, right? Lower frequency wave, infrared, and it essentially ups the frequency, which takes energy normally, right, to a much faster frequency wavelength. And this is actually really the hard part. Like, it's much easier to go the other way around.
Right. But so you'd wear this patch and you put it, and would people typically wear it in multiple patches at once to have different points on the body, or would one be like enough for a person?
Well, so each shipment of Taopatches comes with a set of 3. And you need 2 of them for basic rebalancing. And so what we recommend for everybody to wear at least 2. And there are specific points. So there's one on your sternum. So, by the way, we include all these instructions, and we have videos and diagrams and everything. But so you would put one of them on your sternum, right here. The second one goes on your spine, on your C7, or right under your C7. And there's some variations. So you can, if you're not seeing the results that you like, there's a couple of options to try. So actually, just going down lower on the spine. But so 2 is the minimum. We have some protocols that require 3 or more. But really, we include the third one primarily for anywhere you have pain. So just literally placing it wherever you have injury or pain will make the pain go away. And what's really interesting is it's not a painkiller. It actually goes to the root of the problem and addresses the original imbalance, so that it's a healing, not just a masking of the pain.
Right. And some of the theory of this, and again, this is from like Eastern medicine, old time medicine, whatever you want to call it. But, and correct me if I'm wrong here, is like in an injury, there's sometimes like a tissue or a space or a part of the body that's not receiving either nutrients or energy or input or blood flow or something. And so getting light into that area is a way to sort of penetrate that area to give it some life again, for lack of a better word, or, thinking on my off the top of my head here, but give it some life again so that then the body can then go in and heal it. Is that correct to say?
Yeah, that's definitely, that's a significant part of it. And the other significant aspect is, over the last millions or thousands of years, we evolved with the natural spectrum of sunlight, right? So there's the kind of more ultraviolet waves in the morning when the sun is brighter, and then it kind of goes more into infrared towards the sunset. And we weren't wearing these clothes. We weren't sitting inside our houses, right, with fluorescent lighting. So just delivering those wavelengths of light to specific points into your nervous system is very beneficial.
Yeah, this sounds, I'm sure, to people listening, some people will be like, "Oh, this is a little out there." But when you really think about it, I think it makes a ton of sense, and I'm almost positive that the thing that took this so long to become a viable product is just the difficulty in the technology aspect of it, right?
Yes, the technology is definitely cutting edge, literally, and we're always improving it. We're always making newer, better versions as well. But to be honest with you, one of the other reasons why it's not used by every person is it does seem a little bit too good to be true. It's crazy to believe that you place this thing on 2 points on the body and you're gonna see the difference that the people experience on our homepage. Our brain, we're used to kind of certain things being normal, and this is pretty far outside of normal. And a lot of the pushback we're getting from some skeptics is, oh, this is just placebo. To address that, we do have placebo-controlled studies that clearly show it's not placebo. So, but still, it's we are creatures of habit, so it takes some time to relearn certain things.
Of course, anything that challenges the status quo is going to be difficult to accept, and certainly anything that challenges the Western medical community is going to have additional challenges in approval and scientific, acceptance by the scientific community, and that's a whole other rabbit hole that maybe we'll get into, but maybe we don't have to. So like I'm with you there, and I get that. And people are always looking for a quick fix, but sometimes it's like, oh, this is even too good to be true. But on that note, how much of an effect for someone who doesn't have MS or Parkinson's disease, or like a major health issue, a normal healthy person, how much of an effect are we talking here in terms of an improvement in their overall health or their ability to perform, or how much of an effect can people really expect?
Sure. So the short answer is it depends. People who are, for example, people who do a lot of yoga or meditation, they are just as a result more in tune with their bodies. They feel the difference quite profoundly very quickly, right? And again, in our lab, we can measure the improvements every single time. Whether or not you feel more physically balanced, that just depends on your internal kind of sensory mechanisms. So we do have a significant improvement in stress and anxiety. That's something, and there are specific points for that. So that's a very clear thing we've seen. Focus is another one. Sports performance. I mean, definitely, we have lots of professional athletes. We had 5 Olympic athletes in the last Olympic Games. Novak Djokovic, who is arguably the best tennis player of all time, publicly said at a press conference this summer that Taopatch is the secret of his career, and he wouldn't be sitting here without it today. Like his words, not mine. It really does depend, but the difference is always there. And considering the cost, and it's not a cheap product. So our baseline Taopatch starts at, or a set of 3 starts at $300. However, if you consider that it works for 2.5 years all the time, it really is nothing compared to the other therapies that we're doing.
People waste $300 really dumb stuff. So I don't think that's supremely expensive. There are plenty of like way worse, it's like stupid items that are even in the name of, health and fitness that people waste money on. So I don't think that $300 is a lot. I think $300 is actually quite a reasonable price given the length of time that it lasts and the positive effect that it could have. And also, and I thought we were going to get into this a little bit later, but what are the downsides of this? Besides costing you $300, like what else what's the downside?
Honestly, I don't want to sound cliche, but there aren't any. So in Europe, we are registered as a class 1 medical device, which means it has the same safety as a Band-Aid. So it can be applied by anyone, and there's literally no counterindication. So it works with any other therapy that you're using, with a pacemaker or anything else. It doesn't interact with anything. The other thing, and we are in the process of getting FDA clearance as well. We're in the very final stages, so that's going to be another check mark. And then to address the point about the pricing, we have a money back guarantee. So if it doesn't work for whatever reason, just send it back and we'll refund you. No questions.
Right. Yeah. Which is awesome. Right. Let's talk a little bit about the athletes. So Novak Djokovic is one of probably the highest profile athlete who's said that he's using it, and people might think, oh, he's probably like a healthy guy. He takes care of himself. He's a pro athlete. He must be healthy. But athletes are trying to edge out their competition by 0.1%. So they're going to use whatever they can within the rules of the sport, not talking about steroids and other substances, but within the rules of their sport to kind of get an edge on their competition. And so if this is just helping him feel more aligned, and to be honest, I think even if it's placebo and it's helping him, like it's still beneficial.
Right. Well, in his case, he also had an injury that it helped with a lot. And we do have not like fully fledged studies, but we have plenty of measurements that show that Taopatch does help you run faster, jump further, and recover faster as well, depending on where you place it.
And what do you think the proposed mechanism of that is? Is it just this centering? It's almost I feel like it's really hard to describe because we use words that are not really scientific. It's a centering of the body. It's a channeling of energy. It's these things that it's like, okay, we can't necessarily measure those in a lab, but we can measure the outcomes. And that's probably like more valuable than really 1,000% understanding how it really works.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, there are the centering of the body is actually this is not like a woo-woo metaphorical thing. It's literally, so there's a machine that measures the weight of your feet. So as you're standing, right, it measures how your weight is distributed over about a minute of time. And for a normal person, there's quite a substantial shifts in your center of gravity and how the weight is distributed between your feet. With Taopatch on, that there's a very, very significant improvement in that, or decrease in that variation. And so what that means is there is a lot less. One of the benefits is there's a lot less energy being used for kind of maintaining your physical balance. So you can channel that energy or use that energy somewhere else. But then there is, so for example, for me, I, knock on wood, don't have any serious health issues. But I noticed after about a year of wearing them that my range of motion or my flexibility just went off the charts. I went from a really rigid person to a really, really flexible person without doing really any yoga or stretching. It was very nice.
That's very interesting because so two things I want to say here. I think just to kind of paint the picture of like the balance thing, and I'm pretty sure I understand. I know what you're getting at because I remember looking at these like the force plate charts in university. It's like you stand on a plate and then it will on a computer will plot like if you can imagine like a squiggly line drawing around as your center of mass moves around. And when it's very wide or the scribbles are all over the place, you're less balanced, and when the scribbles are more concentrated, you are better balance or more in the center of the force plate. Is that correct to say?
That's exactly it. Yeah. Exactly.
The other thing on the side of flexibility is that a lot of flexibility, and we know this through training and through yoga and stuff like that, is that it's very neurological. So the point of breathing when we stretch, and this is something I've talked about in flexibility training, people who listen to podcasts for a while will know, we talk about breathing and stretching. It's so that your body relaxes while you're stretching, so that then you can actually, your body lets you push deeper into that stretch. And so if your nervous system is just more aligned, firing better, whatever, which is also the first principle of gaining strength, is actually learning how to like use your body. The reason people are weak when they start bench pressing is because they don't know how to bench press. It's not because their muscles are weak. It's just their muscles don't know what they're doing. So if the nervous system can work better, then everything else is going to benefit a lot from that. So it's really interesting that you noticed that without doing any specific, flexibility or mobility training.
Yeah, exactly. That's 100%.
Yeah, it's really shocking to me that this is something that's not better known. What do you think are some of the challenges besides just the challenges of marketing any product ever? But what are some of the challenges you guys are facing with getting this out there more?
I'll speak candidly, right? So just even within the MS community, for example, multiple sclerosis, there is a lot of pushback from. I don't want to like the big pharma, right? I don't want to talk
you
about
can,
it.
I'll say it for you. You can we can talk shit about them. It's okay with me.
It's crazy. Right? Like we've done studies in conjunction with them that showed just a tremendous improvement for MS patients who seemingly somebody they should care about the most. And after that study, they stopped talking to us because I want to be careful about what I say here, but they are funded. Some of those organizations are funded by pharmaceutical companies who are not necessarily trying to they have shareholders and they have their own internal goals. So completely understand and respect all of this, but it's not necessarily that their goals are 100% aligned with their community.
Right. I think it's very fair to say that for a lot of pharmaceutical companies, and again, for anyone who matters who's listening to this is me speaking. This is not Dmitri saying this, but it's like the goal of the company is to make money. And the way to make money is to continue to sell your product at the highest possible price for as long as you can to as many people as possible. And if that means that if people get better and no longer need the product or need the product less or whatever, then that makes the company less money. And you're not going to find more people. You can't manufacture the disease to get more customers. It's not like a glass of water, like a glass, like, okay, if there's more people in the world, more people need to drink water and more people need a glass. So you can always find more customers. The glass breaks, you need a new customer, right? It doesn't work that way for pharmaceuticals. So it's really hard to find more customers because you can't manufacture disease, or maybe you can, but that's a dark one to go down. And so sometimes it's not in the best interest of the company to the financial health of the company to actually solve the problem that they claim to be solving. And so products like this and I don't think you guys are claiming that you cure any of these things, but you certainly help and show improvements, right? I think that would be incorrect and unfair to say that you cure them, and you haven't said that. But certainly helps. And like, why wouldn't we push this? It's effectively harmless, extremely cost effective. And like there's really no downside other than it gets in the way of someone else lining their pockets.
Yeah, and so I 100% agree with you. The other thing that I would say is the difficulty in making this and getting this to as many people as we can is it does seem too good to be true. Again, our brain has a really hard time, and frankly, me too. I'm as skeptical as the next guy. Just to believe that this little tiny thing can have that effect is really hard to believe. And then we do have this kind of a stigma against the placebo effect. So if everything that seems too good to be true, we just discount it as a placebo. And again, we have plenty of studies that show that it's not placebo. And then somebody could say, well, that study only had 30 people in it. Like, Okay, well, sure, yes. We did have a year-long MS study which showed amazing results, but it had 30 people. And I remember talking to someone who's like, well, that's not enough people. Okay, great. Give us, if we had the budget to run
Exactly.
3,000 people, we would. But it's as a small company, it's difficult.
Yeah, this is the reality of research and science that I think people don't understand. Is like, some criticisms will be, oh, it's not enough sample size, or you guys funded your own study, and it's like, well, sure. Are you willing to give me $10 million to fund this study on my product? Like, if not, then how else am I supposed to study it? Like, this is not about being biased or about anything. This is just the reality of how it's done. And I think collectively, not just with your product, I think we don't lean into the power of the placebo enough. 100%. Like, I am very convinced with my own grandparents that, every time they feel ill, they feel something, they go to the doctor, they want a pill. I think that they would be just as fine for a lot of the things if the doctor just gave them the sugar pill, because they just want to get something from the doctor, and that makes them feel comfortable. It's not that they have some major thing wrong. Of course, there's a place for actual medicine and all that stuff. But for a lot of, and this goes not just for old people, but for everyone, it's like, if you just think you're going to do something that's like going to make you feel better, it's going to at least help a little bit. So why don't we give it a try and use it? Again, the thing that you're losing is $300, and everyone listening to this podcast has wasted $300 on something.
Well, and you're not really losing it, because if it doesn't work, you get your money back.
Exactly.
And one other thing that I think is really important to mention is because all of us are so different. Whether it's 30 people or 300 or 3,000 people study really doesn't matter, because all of us are different. And so the real study that really matters has a sample of one, and that's you, right? Like, does it work for you? And there's only one way to find out, is if you try it. And we've tried to make it as painless as possible, as easy as possible, and to offer the money back guarantee. So if it doesn't work for you, no problem, just send it back.
Yeah, that's a really good point too. Is just the N of one is the thing that matters. And this is, I think, the thing that matters with all of health. We can sit here and argue about different diets, and I like diet X and you like diet Y, and the next person down the street likes diet Z, and like whatever, but maybe each of those are the best for each of us, and like that's the thing that matters. And so if this works for you, then it works for you, and you don't really have to be so concerned about whether it works for someone else or whether it's like the perfect thing or the right thing. If it works, it works.
Exactly. Completely agree.
Another thing that I was very cheekily pleased to see and made me laugh and made me think about my mom is that the product is made in Italy. And the joke in my house is anything made in Italy. My mom is Italian or Italian heritage. Anything made in Italy is good. So at least it's made in Italy, so it must be good. How did Italy become like the hub? I don't know. Maybe I'm just mistaken, but Italy is not a hub of nanotechnology research worldwide. But I know that one of the lead researchers is Italian. So is that just how it came to be?
Yeah. So actually, the story is very interesting. So this Taopatch was invented by a gentleman named Fabio Fontana, and so the story is he had a really bad accident, which took him a really long time to recover, and he tried every single thing to help, and the only thing that really helped him was light therapy, or low-level laser therapy. And so that kind of started the journey. And so over the years, this was 9 or 10 years ago.
Wow.
So it took a while to develop. And for the first few years, the only way for you to get your hands on Taopatch would be to work with a doctor, or to go to the doctor, one of the Taopatch practitioners in Italy. And so that's where they just kind of started. And so there's a network of practitioners that's growing over there. And so what we did in right around when COVID started in 2020 is we realized that we can bring, first of all, you couldn't see a doctor at the time. And so we decided to kind of simplify the directions, productize it, and make it as easy as possible, and just ship it directly to your door, and just set up the infrastructure and the processes for you to be able to talk to us. So, for example, as soon as when the patches arrive, we make it not mandatory, but we strongly encourage everybody to attend one of the kind of onboarding webinars, where initially it's a group webinar. We're super happy to do one-on-one training as well, where you would talk to a member of our care team, make sure you answer any questions. We can try different points, fine tune it. And then if, after a week or two, you don't see results that you'd like, we really ask everybody to get back on a Zoom call with us and fine tune everything, make sure that you get the most out of it.
Right. Wow. Now, is it something that you'd also wear 24/7? Or would you take it off and put it on just kind of like for a performance or something like that?
Both. So initially, we actually recommend not wearing it 24/7, and there's a kind of a schedule. So in the beginning, you would wear it for 4 hours a day. First week, you wear it for 4 hours a day. Second week, 8 hours a day. Third week, 12 hours a day. And then you can start wearing it 24/7. And this is just to kind of to allow your body to integrate this and to ease into it. So it's not all at once. And then, especially for athletes, there are different points. So the two basic points that you would wear 24/7 are just kind of overall holistic wellness. And you get a lot of the benefits from the specific protocols and performance and recovery from just these 2 points. But there are more specific points for sports performance or for recovery.
Right.
So for example, for sports performance, it would be kind of under your knee. And again, we document all of this, so it's very easy. But yeah, so you would put them on those points while you're exercising or in a game, and then put them on the recovery points for the next 24 hours after the game.
I see. That would make sense. So if you had if you had like a shoulder injury or an elbow injury, I'm thinking about tennis because talking about Novak, right? A shoulder injury or an elbow or something like that. And, you put it on there for during the game or during the match so that it's kind of like helping you overcome that injury or whatever. And then you might put it on a different point that's like a little more recovery focused after that. But this would all be individualized and directed by you guys as well, right?
Absolutely. Well, but with the injury specifically, you would put it on the injury point 24/7. Until you don't feel the pain anymore.
Right. I'd imagine that part of this ramp up over the first couple of weeks is also to help people realize the difference between it working and not working. Because if you just put it on and leave it on, you might not. It just might become your normal, and then you don't realize it. But it's like if you put it on, take it off, then you can better understand the difference that you're feeling. Does that happen as well?
Yes and no. So that actually does happen. The whole thing about the new normal is a really big kind of a big issue for us. So we've had many cases where a customer comes back and says, "Oh, it's not working for me." And then I remember there was one case where we did. Also, that person had a before video. She had a MS, and so we recorded a before video of her walking, and then on that day where she said it's not working, we did the after video, and she was like, "Oh my God, it's clearly working." And then we also had cases where I remember there was one customer who said, "Oh, I'm sending these back today; they're not working." And then later that day, she went to her neurologist, her doctor, and the doctor was like, "Oh my God, what happened? You're a different person." So our brain, we get used to good things very quickly.
Right. Do you know what it was in those specific instances that the one with MS? What was it that she thought wasn't working, and then what did she see in the video that led her to know that it's working?
The most kind of telling test that we do is a tandem gait, where you just put literally one foot in front of the other and try to walk a straight line, kind of like the drunk test, the DUI test, and it's a very noticeable difference. It's very easy to see the difference with that one.
Right. But physically, she didn't feel any different, and she just didn't realize how much better her walking was without seeing it kind of from a third party view.
Yeah. Well, another one, so especially for MS, because we do have a lot of MS patients as using it, is the pain. So there's a lot of pain that comes with MS. And we've had quite a few people who just noticed that their pain medicine prescription went down to zero over time.
Interesting. Yeah, this whole before, after, and having measurable, tangible results. I mean, we use it in fitness as, scale weight or just before and after photos, because sometimes you can't see the difference. You see yourself every day. You see yourself losing weight slowly. It doesn't happen overnight. And, over a month, you maybe lost 5 pounds, but you didn't actually feel like you did, but you look in before and after photos and you're like, oh yeah, look at, like, I can tell the difference. And so it's the same thing here, and having some measurable result to say like, hey, this thing actually is working. And I think it's even more important to highlight that there are some people who feel that way, that it's not working, but on some objective measurement, like a photo or like some type of, the doctor saying it or their medication going down or whatever, that they do realize it. Because I think it reiterates the fact that this is not some like magic thing that all of a sudden you put it on and, you're going to feel like $1 million. Like, we're not trying to make it like this, the unicorn thing that you feel, like a Greek god all of a sudden, because that would be like getting in that realm of like, oh, it's hard to believe this. Right. But understanding that there are some people who think that it's not even working for them, but then objectively it actually is working for them. I think that makes this so much more palatable for most people.
Exactly. Yeah.
So interesting, man. So one of the other things I noticed looking through the website is that there are different levels of the patch as well. I think it was like the Start, Sport, Pro, and Platinum, I think was, and there was Emotion. What are the differences between those?
Sure. So the Start, one of the differences is the price, and the reason for the difference in price is the complexity of the material is, it goes up. So the Start is the most kind of general version that covers it's the broadest. It covers a lot of the overall wellness and pain and balance and everything we talked about. Sport is a bit more narrow, and the difference between all of them is the wavelengths of light that it emits. So Start is more kind of on the infrared to red to like midway on the spectrum. Sport is a bit more narrow within that range. Emotion is also more narrow, but focused on the mental anxiety and stress issues. Then we have and those are all the kind of the baseline. Those all cost $300 for the set of 3. The next level is the Pro, Taopatch Pro. So that one covers basically the entire spectrum from infrared all the way to ultraviolet. So there's more wavelengths, and there's if you look at just the research of light therapy, there are different benefits to different wavelengths of light. And so Pro has more wavelengths and a wider spectrum. And the Platinum, and this is the Ferrari of towel patches, it has also the whole spectrum, and actually even wider spectrum, but it has a lot more specific colors of light within that spectrum. What we recommend for everyone is to start with the Start, unless you're an athlete and you want to focus just on performance. But if you have any pain or issues, neurological issues, or really anything else, Start is a perfect place to start. What we see is people who do see the improvement from Start upgrade over time to Pro, and we have a program where it's you don't pay the full price for upgrading. And Platinum, pretty much all of the customers who end up buying Platinum are existing customers who have tried Start or Pro and want more of the benefits. And one thing I should also mention, because of the money back guarantee, we make returns very easy. Our overall return rate is about just under 5%. And interestingly, for Platinum, the most expensive, Platinum costs over $2,000. The return rate for Platinum is even lower. So it really works.
Yeah, makes sense to me that each of the products as they upgrade get a little bit more targeted and for more specific areas or for more specific ailments, and how the different wavelengths of light would do that. That makes perfect sense. That's kind of what I assumed. I just wasn't exactly sure of that.
Mm-hmm.
A little bit more of a personal question for you. How did you get involved in this? So I know you said one of the lead researchers was in a bad accident, and he basically invented the product as a way to heal himself. Mm-hmm. What is your story with health and wellness, and how did you come to be part of Taopatch?
Sure, great question. So my background is more in software and internet. And a few years ago, I really got interested and personally kind of realized that wellness, health is wealth, right? And wellness is the most important thing. So I kind of became a lot more interested in solving like real problems for people rather than like trying to optimize something else.
Right.
So around that time, I got involved with an organization called Transformative Technologies conference. It's a conference. We had a kind of an incubator, and I was organizing events for this organization. And the whole kind of goal of the organization is to sit at the intersection of health and wellness and technology. And so we at the conference we have a bunch of different tools or companies and startups really that kind of sit at that intersection of technology and health. And then my business partner, who's also Italian, and he kind of came to this through his family, and he tried it, and it really helped him with his injury. And so we kind of had an aha moment that, hey, we got to bring this to more people around the world.
I think it's a thing that's a story that's becoming a little bit more common is people like yourself who are not specifically from like a health or wellness background, but we need to blend. One of the biggest problems with health and wellness is that it's not super profitable other than pharmaceutical drugs. But so making it a viable business that can get to people is like a challenge. Like for myself, I always say, we go outside and go for a walk, go to the gym. Like I can't make money off of telling people to go for a walk, right? If I could, it'd be a very different life, but I can't do that. So how do we find these products and have it from a different perspective? Because of your background, you would think differently than someone like myself or someone who's always been in the health and wellness field, just because of that's how we're trained to think and problem solve, right? And so it's this really nice intersection of people who come into the kind of the health and wellness thing, because like you said, health is wealth, and without it, we really have nothing. And sometimes it seems, I think, more believable hearing that kind of stuff from someone like you, who this hasn't been your whole life about promoting health and wellness and these things, versus someone like me, where like this is all I've ever done. And so I get the comment of like, oh, easy for you to say because you've always done this, right? Mm-hmm. But when someone hasn't had that, it's like, oh, this person is a little bit more relatable. So in some ways, I think like your journey to this is almost more relatable than my journey would be. Does that make sense? Like I think that's a really powerful aspect of you and you involved in the company as well.
Thank you. No, that really makes sense.
Yeah.
And you're right. You do see a lot of that now. Like, there's a lot of people who come from, like advertising technology or gaming, who kind of realize like, oh, wow, we've been spending a lot of effort on like stuff that really doesn't matter.
Yeah. I think COVID probably helped with that. I think it was a big reality check for a lot of people of like, oh, what really matters? Being with family, being with people we love, being able to go outside and use our body and all that kind of stuff, and as well as the emergence of AI in the past, or the popularization. I shouldn't say emergence, but the popularization of AI over the past 3-4 years. I'm sure people like you have been playing with things like chat models and whatever for years, but for the rest of us, we just learned about it last year. But the way that these things can really help health and just broaden it and make it more accessible and easier for everyone is super. It's magic. It's magic.
Yeah, agreed. Well, but what's really interesting is you mentioned COVID. COVID was a really good time for this health technology space and just health and wellness in general, because a lot of people kind of took health into their own hands and realized that like, wow, I can, this is my body, and like I have to do something about it, and I'm not just going to rely on someone. And so it really opened up a lot of doors for other. I have a lot of friends in this general space, and it's been a really kind of there was a big jump around that time.
Yeah, and I think that again, this is me speaking. So if you're going to get mad at me. But people lost a lot of trust in the traditional medical system, Western medical system, through COVID. And so people are starting to look to one, how can I take care of myself and not just trust the system to take care of me, and looking for alternative things like, hey, if they were wrong with this, what else might they be wrong about, and what else can we do? And so while that sucks, because I wish that they were everyone was good and it was all fine and perfect, it's not. And so you've got to we look to alternative products and alternative methods to help ourselves. And the fact they're even called alternative, like these are the things that existed before medicine as we know it now existed, and now it's becoming new and alternative and demonized and whatever. But this is the way forward.
Yeah, there's that could be a whole other conversation for many hours. Yeah, that's why I prefer to use the word holistic other than alternative, because it's a more accurate word for sure. Yeah.
Well, Dmitri, is there anything else that you think that we've missed that we should tell people about the product, or about anything else that you wanted to talk about?
No, I think we covered just about everything. I mean, I would just suggest go to our website, taopatch.co, not .com, but taopatch.co, and check it out for yourself. We have all the studies listed there. You can see the testimonials and the videos. And again, if it doesn't work for you, just send it back and we'll refund you.
Yeah, no risk at all. I will put the link to the website in the show notes, taopatch.co. Where is it available? Because I know the company is Italian. Where is it available worldwide, the product, or worldwide? Okay, awesome. Good for us in Canada, because sometimes we get stiffed on these things. But again, that's just the way the world goes. Taopatch.co. I will put links in the show notes. Dmitri, thank you so much for being here. Is there any last message that you want to leave the people with before we sign off?
Yeah, I would say, in the spirit of kind of holistic wellness, Taopatch isn't meant to be the silver bullet, like you said, right? It's one of the tools in the arsenal, and it's really important to live a healthy life, right? Just being aware of everything that's going on, and taking ownership of your own health. And it's everything. It's the food you eat, it's the exercise and movement. It's all of this is really, really important. And you got to think of this in those terms, in holistic terms.
Beautiful. Thank you very much for clearing that up. I 100% agree. And again, means more coming from you than it means coming from me. So thank you very much, Dmitri. Taopatch.co, everyone. Share the podcast, check out the product, like, share, subscribe, 5-star review, all those good things helps everyone grow and helps everyone get healthier. Go outside. Be a good person. We'll see you next time.